So we are here today with Linda. She's going to do the breathwork workshop in Sentir retreat. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to ask several questions about you and your job and what you do, and especially about breathwork and living in Bali. So the first question it will be, can you explain us a bit about us? What is your background? Where are you from?
I'm born in Germany, and my background is I started studying health and nutrition and biology. Kind of always fascinated me, like the human body and how everything is connected and working. And after that, I became an integrative nutrition health coach, but kind of noticed pretty fast that I love nutrition, but this is not like the end point of the journey. But it has been really helpful in understanding more like how the body works and how unique it is from person to person. And then I came to Bali the second time and did my first yoga teacher training. So from like this nutrition background more to like being in my body and having like this practice. Which has been a game changer, definitely, of, being more connected with my body. And then pretty much like 2 or 3 months later, I came back to Bali again to do another yoga teacher training with an therapeutic approach. So it also brought in like mental illnesses or struggles, like how can you adjust yoga for like depression? How can you support anxiety? So that has been amazing. And then I started teaching yoga online because of COVID. But there was still something in me also personally that I felt like this is not like, I'm not there yet. There must be something more, especially because I was also struggling with a few things and I felt like I was working on it a lot, but nothing really changed. And I was like, okay, there must be more. And then kind of, I was still in Germany and then breathwork came like to me. And I found Breathwork Bali, I think just on Instagram. And I'm like, I kind of like that approach of like, that there's something like more, like under the surface. It's not just the mind that can understand and grasp and like make sense of things. And that there's something deeper in the sub and unconsciousness. And I like that this was also backed with science. So I'm like, this is not just like this spiritual healing thing where I cannot understand why it's also working. So, and then I pretty much packed my stuff and was just waiting until the borders opened up. And then I came here and then I started with like a personal 1 month embodied science of breath course. And I was like, that's it. Like, this is what I wanted to like find. And it already changed so much in how I felt, how I behaved, how I perceived. And then I started in last September, the practitioner training with Breathwork Bali. And since then, I'm facilitating the circles once a week and have my own one-on-one clients in Uluwatu.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
One of the questions that I always ask is like, I know doing this change, like from your, secure or like what you should do, back in your country. At that point that you feel that it's not what you want and you really want to do a change. Sometimes it's scary. Some people don't dare to do it. So if you will have this person just in front of you, what you will say, like, because I guess you had your fears as well, your concerns before taking that next step. So if you have this person just in front, which advice will you say to him or to her?
That's a great question. I mean, I've definitely been there as well. But also, I think this is one of my, like, I'm really good in it, or I became really good in it, in befriending myself with the unknown. And yeah, I think what I would recommend is, for me, I always ask myself the question, which pain would be greater? Like the pain of I try and maybe I fail. I don't even want to call it fail, but maybe this is not going to work out. But then I know this wasn't the thing, and I still like maybe different doors already opened up, and I learned a lot from it. Or the pain of one day looking back, and I'm like, why didn't I do it? Like, what was holding me back, and why did I let fear holding me back from doing something I already feel like I want to do it so much. But yeah, I think this question I always, and I keep asking myself if I notice like there's fear coming up. Another thing is what's below that fear. Like I always, why am I scared? And figuring out like the worst thing that could have happened, is it actually that worse? Like when I came to Bali, I was like, I have no idea. Like I have no idea what's gonna happen. And I'm like, okay, but what would be the worst? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe breathwork is not for me, and I run out of money. I'm flying back and find a job back in Germany. And then I'm like, it's actually not that bad. At least I have tried. And I think also one thing is maybe reflecting on the concept of security. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what that really is. Because, I mean, it's kind of normal that we sometimes we get so comfortable with where we are, even though it doesn't feel 100% right, maybe, or maybe it's even like painful or uncomfortable, but we know kind of what's happening. It's predictable. We kind of know how to handle it. And the mind or the ego or whatever you want to call it is scared of like, oh, but what if I go there and I don't know, like what if I cannot tell before what's going to happen. And I think letting go of this a little bit tricked concept of security, and also finding that in yourself. Like for me, that was a big step of like security. Yes, for sure. It's also our surrounding, but it's so much inside me of how much do I believe in myself that I am capable of whatever's going to happen. Yeah. And sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, we all have these fears. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's normal to a certain degree. And then just like checking in over and over again, like, is that actually like a real fear, or is that just like the mind like, no, I rather stay in like this comfort zone. I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah.
But sometimes it comes like things that you didn't expect, which are so much better than you planned. Like with me, with my business, the same. Like I planned here, and then it became this. So
yeah.
Like sometimes you're scared that something happened, and maybe it happened something even better than this. Like
for sure. And that happened so many times. I thought like, this is going to be the way, and this is going to be the goal I want to reach. And then on that way, I was like, okay. And it's kind of went to the right and then left, up, down. And it brought me to so many places, but it definitely needs a certain amount of trust and surrender to whatever's going to happen. And also, yeah, trusting that it is just a step on the journey.
Like,
yeah.
And maybe you said like, why it's taking so long, but maybe it's the purpose, no? And the life is taking you through that way because you need to learn certain things before arriving.
Yeah. Yeah. You cannot rush sometimes that journey. And I think, so many times on my way, I'm like, man, I tried this approach, this therapy, this whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's still not. But I also look back and I'm like, no, it helped you in this way. And this one helped you in this way. And maybe this one helped you in noticing this is not for me. But then I tried something else. So, yeah. a lot of trust and surrender.
100% and work. Yeah. Great. So can you tell us a bit which are the benefits of breath work in terms of like interpersonal and intrapersonal relationship?
Yeah, that's also a great one. Well, in breathwork, I mean, one of the main goals is to become more connected and more aware of the internal landscape. So what is actually going on in this body, like in this mind, in this heart, in this whole being. And with that, you, or at least I, discovered parts of me that maybe I have suppressed. Maybe I was scared to feel. Maybe I was simply not aware of it. So checking in with myself and having this higher awareness of how I feel physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it just allowed, and the willingness to go there, it just allowed me to let these things come up that hasn't been completed, whatever that might be. It might be a reflex, it might be an emotion, it might be a thought, it might be whatever it is. And with breathwork, especially with that type of breathwork, you just have the opportunity to really explore on a deeper level. And with that self-awareness and then completing maybe old experiences, patterns, belief systems, whatever that is, it, for me, it felt like, oh my God, I'm getting lighter and lighter, because it was almost like I'm shedding off one layer and another layer and another layer. And it felt like I'm coming home. It's like the more I practiced and the more I was open to whatever comes up and I'm just going through it, I felt like, oh, this is actually me. And it just keep like this continuous exploring and learning, and also remembering of like, who am I? Because there's so many things coming like throughout the life. It's experiences, it's the society, the way we grow up, belief systems, media, it's different people around us. And that just felt like, oh, wow, yeah, I think I have so much more deeper connection to myself. And with that, I mean, we also, that's like the self-awareness and the exploration. But in general, the goal is to repattern the breath. And with that, balancing the nervous system, because they're so close together. And with repatterning the breath, we have like three main diaphragms. It's the pelvic floor, the rib cage, and the throat. So me as a facilitator, when I have someone and I'm guiding them in their breath journey, I can see like where is breath moving and where it might be stuck, or there's a tension, or there's no breath. And the ultimate goal is to create a more holistic, a more appropriate breath, so that I am reacting appropriate to any stimuli around me. So let's say I get an email from someone and I'm not like breathing like super shallow, get tense and fully overreacting to actually something that's not going to kill me, like a tiger running in. Mm-hmm. And that's just like, and because the nervous system and the breath is so connected, with the breath we can totally tap into that and make changes in the nervous system. So yeah, I mean, it's creating this like more balanced breath and a more balanced nervous system. And with that, there comes so much benefit of more clarity, because maybe not all the time in this fight-flight response and like full on like tense, and no, I'm maybe more calm, I'm more centered, and I have more clarity, I have more creativity. And yeah, also this sense feeling of I feel safe in my body and like I trust myself. it's just one of so many benefits, but it definitely helps also with, for example, anxiety, insomnia, depression, just because we are changing on a sub and unconscious level. And with that, we change how we perceive ourselves, but also others. And then that also changes how I feel, how I think, how I act. So with all that, of course, I get more self-awareness. I also more trust in myself, feel more safe in myself. I step into my power. I feel capable of like whatever's coming up, especially emotions. I got this. And if I show up like that, then obviously I'm also showing up different in relationships. Because if I feel grounded and centered and connected with myself, then I think for me, I stopped blaming other people so much. Or whatever happens when someone was talking to me and like was a little bit snappy, I would be like reacted immediately and be like snappy and like would take it super personal. While now I'm like, I feel like it's almost like a second that is there, that when something happens, I'm like, okay, wait. And then it's like, is it actually about me at the moment, or maybe the person is just triggered, or it's the second of like I reflect myself for a second. I'm like, oh, maybe I was like not the nicest before, and that allows me to not react like immediately. It's more like a wait a second, and then it's so much more appropriate. Yeah, and also I think one part is the blaming of others for how I feel, and I know that's like no, I gained so much more self responsibility, and like no, now it's like this is my turn. It's like my responsibility, and with that, I think also not these expectations of others and attachments of like you need to make me feel safe. You need to make me feel worth or whatever. It's like, no, I feel it internally. And then I don't put so much pressure on another person. So coming together is so much more joy because there's like no neediness of like, I need this from you.
And honestly, like me, I'm a person that it's really difficult to connect, like to arrive to this point of like really meditation. You know, this deep point that we arrived doing breath work.
Yeah.
It took me lots of time, and I tried meditation, yoga, and like through breath work, it was the first time I really could reach that point.
Yeah.
So I think it really helps to be in an environment with like with music, with like facilitator, especially for me, like the touching, like
yeah,
it's really good because sometimes you go to your own thoughts and you stop breathing.
Yeah.
So it helps to, reconnect again. And yeah, to face all the like the fears or the problems that you were pushing away the whole week just to keep,
yeah,
this rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's a moment of like stopping and saying like, now you're gonna face, what you need to work on.
Yeah.
So then during the whole week or the next 2 weeks you can, you know where you should put your effort and what to work. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not feeling good. And it's not, you don't know why. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like I know why I'm feeling like this, so I can do something to change it.
Yeah.
So like I can speak from my experience of like the breathwork you facilitate, that it really like it's so powerful. And it's a thing that people who is a bit skeptic, which I was a lot when I came to Bali.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. And like when you really experience, it's like, wow, like it really works, and it really helps. And even if you are in a, you have done meditation many times or breath work, because like for example the other day there was a teacher of breath work,
Yeah.
and she had a huge, like a really nice experience. So even if you are in advanced level or really like beginner,
Yeah.
you can connect.
Yeah. And I think what I also would like to add is like breathwork is just one term. It's like yoga, but there's so many different ways of doing it. And I think understanding like what kind of practice we do is really necessary, maybe also to feel more like okay, like I know kind of what's going to happen, and that it is also backed with like science, kind of gave me a better feeling of like, I kind of feel like they know what they're doing and they're not messing with kind of my body. And that is also one big part of breathwork. And I mean, what we do is the practice itself is conscious connected breathing, because we're connecting the inhale and the exhale. But because we also use touch and body work, we now call it facilitated breath repatterning, because that's one of the main goals, to repattern the breath to a more easeful and full and vibrant breath that is also relaxed. So we have these two parts.
Sometimes people think about breath work and think about, oh yeah, Wim Hof, it's like, this is why I wanted to do the interview, for you to explain, and after, if you want to show it a little bit how you can do it. It's a different kind of breath work. I think people is a bit confused as to what's breath work, like box breathing or like Wim Hof. It's the only thing people used to know.
Yeah, and I mean, we can kind of like spread it or like separate it in two parts. It's like, one is the mind-based practices like pranayama, where we like count, like box breathing. We count for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4 again. But we use like consciously our mind, which is great because we just like narrow the focus to one thing and we kind of center it. And Wim Hof, like there's so many, like these Wim Hof and pranayama, it's all like mind-based. And then we have more body-based. So conscious connected breathing would be body-based, because of course we connect our breath, but that's pretty much all we have to do. And then we allow the breath to happen. Because also me as a practitioner, I don't want someone in front of me trying really hard to like do it right. It's like, no, just connect the breath, and then we see whatever's happening, even though you lose maybe the breath or whatever. It's like, then I can see what's the underlying breath actually. And working with that is so much more powerful than pretending like I want to do it right, because then I can see like what's below that. And then with that we can work, and then it eventually is going to become more easeful and vibrant and relaxed on the exhale. So yeah, there are definitely differences, and they all have a great purpose. I believe that Wim Hof and techniques like that can be powerful, but I mean, I think it's so necessarily to have like a proper base, like a solid breath first that is adapting well and more beneficial, I would say. And then we do a practice like Wim Hof or Breath of Fire or whatever. I think it has so much more power than maybe having a dysregulated breath and maybe already really shallow and fast, because we're so much like doing so much and never stop. And then we do the Breath of Fire because it kind of gives us this rush and like this. I don't really see that this might be beneficial to really change something on the deeper level.
In terms of nervous system and like calming down.
And I think that's also one big part of facilitated breath repatterning, is that it really honors the nervous system. We don't want like push people like crazy. Sometimes you can see it even on Instagram, like videos of some sort of breath work where they push people like crazy. And yeah, maybe they have a crazy experience, but a lot of people also say like, oh, I never want to do it again. And we don't want that. Like, you can still have your experience, and sometimes it can be heavy and it can be painful in a sense of like whatever is coming up. But the main goal is also to stay with yourself. Like, if I go through something big, I want to be with myself, because then after this journey, I go out in the world and I'm like, oh, whatever's going to happen, whatever's rising up, I got this. Like, because I was present with myself when I was working through that. If I just push and like have this crazy experience, but I'm also like halfway here and halfway not there anymore, I don't know how beneficial that is as well. So yeah, it definitely, there are different kinds of breath work, and it's good to get to know it before, like read about it a little bit before someone's just doing it. Yeah.
So finally, the last two questions. The 3 reasons why someone should visit Bali at least once in life. What has this island? What is this island so special?
So many things. I think the main reason why I came back after the first time was literally the people. I felt so welcomed, and I don't know, this kindness, but also their devotion to like their praying, their offerings. And yeah, just that, like this smile in the morning when you see them, the little chats when you just get the petrol or whatever. It's just, it really felt like it's coming from the heart. And I'm like, oh, I was just impressed by that. Coming from Germany, where it's sometimes like really like straightforward and kind of cold sometimes. I was just like, oh, there is a different way of like living together. And I think also one thing, I was super impressed, like how many different religions are living next to each other in total peace. And I was like, oh, this is actually possible. It was so beautiful to see, because everyone has their own way of like believing in God or something higher, but it was like fully accepting that this is here and this is also here, and we're still one, but everyone's like having their own way of thinking and believing. And that was just, it was such a beautiful thing to experience. And then for sure, I mean, a lot of people come here, and it's a paradise to explore yourself, I would say. There's so many modalities, so many different approaches, techniques, practices you can try. And for me, that was really important, because I was like, I don't know what's going to help me. And if I don't try, then I will never know. So I tried different things. And in the end, it led me to breathwork. So that definitely is a big part why I decided to come here. And then obviously beautiful nature and great surf.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so that will be all. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And see you in Breathwork.
Yes.